Well, what a week 3 it was in Major League Rugby, where there were a few opportunities for teams to make some statements this week. And there were a few questions that remained to be answered at this point in the season. So here at Hammer Rugby, we're going to break down those statement games, and we're going to see which questions were answered in this week's play. So check it out. There were 3 major questions that I had coming out of week 2 play. Number 1, will Austin finally have the breakout win that they've been searching for? Number 2, can the San Diego Legion put some distance between themselves and last year's power teams, Glendale and Seattle? And number 3, is Nola's ability to be an offensive juggernaut going to end? So let's take a look at week 3 action to find out. There were a promising set of matches set for week 3. On Friday night, Austin playing host to upstart Toronto, with the newcomers edging out a victory 19-23. On Saturday, Houston took themselves out to the California shores to play San Diego, narrowly losing 17-13. And on Sunday, the Seattle Seawolves traveled down to the Bayou, losing by 10, 41-31. So let's check out this week's action. Would Austin be able to stave off an upstart Toronto era's team and get their first victory? Well, in the first half, Austin fought mightily to withstand Toronto pressure. They went into halftime with the lead 10-5. Coming out at half, it was a back and forth affair, with Austin winning in the 72nd minute, 19-18. They were camped outside the Toronto 10-meter line for a sustained period of time. They were sending their forwards through on very tight ball with heavy pressure. But then there was a turnover. Toronto regathered ball, kicked for a clearance, and ultimately, deep in their own territory, Austin tried to kick for clearance themselves to relieve defensive pressure, and the ball was blocked, going into the try zone, and ultimately winding up in a result for the try for the Arrows. And that put Toronto in the lead permanently, 23-19. In San Diego, the SaberCats looked to get back into table contention with a win. They were looking strong in the first half with a 13-3 lead from the boot of Sam Windsor and the try of Josh Vicky. But the Legion came out in the second half with a new resolve, putting sustained pressure on Houston. They opened up the second half scoring when Eagles standout Mike Ta'eo got the Legion going. Then in the 75th minute, Kenny Nasokeke made it 10-13 Houston just when the SaberCats thought they were going to earn a victory and eke this one out. Man of the match, Joe Peterson, made a break and offloaded to USA Eagle Nate Osberger to steal the win. The most important question coming into week 3 for me was this: were the NOLA Gold going to continue to demonstrate themselves to be the offensive juggernaut that they had shown in weeks 1 and 2? And the answer was absolutely, astoundingly yes. NOLA were impressive, and although they had ceded a lead early on, 8-3, they came back with reckless abandon. What was impressive is the diversity in which they scored tries. They scored from short little rhino plays with short drives from the forwards. They scored from a rolling maul. They scored a penalty try. They scored with forwards. They scored with backs. They were really impressive, and J.P. Eloff kept them in the game and kept the momentum rolling with his firm boot. There were a couple standouts for me for NOLA. One of them, for the first 3 weeks, is Tristan Blewett. This guy is a South African, and he's an absolute stud. I've been impressed with him from week 1. He has scored tries in every match he's played. He doubled up in week 1 with 2 tries, and then he came back and scored tries in the last 2 weeks. The other guy that's standing out for me right now is Taylor Houghton. Taylor Houghton was on the bench in week 1. In week 2, he scored 2 tries, earned a man of the match honors, and in week 3, he scored a really nifty try there to seal the deal at the end of the match. For me, Houghton is putting his stamp on the center position. Another standout for me is the young gun, my guy Nick Feeks. I don't know, I love Nick. He's a good guy. He comes from Lindenwood, and ultimately he controlled the match from the fly-half position, his first start for NOLA. And you know what? He impressed me. He controlled the game, and I think he really outplayed Ben Sema. While Sema kicked tactically very well, ball in hand, Nick controlled the game and showed a lot of aggressiveness. I was impressed. And I think in the upcoming weeks, NOLA is going to continue to demonstrate they're that offensive juggernaut. They scored 40 or more points in each of the first 3 weeks. Guys, that's impressive, and they've shown that they deserve to be at the top of the table. So what are the big statements after week 3 in the Major League Rugby? Number 1, NOLA are the real deal. Number 2, bonus points, bonus points, bonus points. I'm going to go back to number 1. NOLA have scored bonus points in all 3 matches. They've scored 40 points or more in those matches, and as a result, have set themselves far and away ahead of the next closest competitor with 5 points in hand. That'll become critical as the season wears on. Number 2, team composition. This year's schedule is longer. More teams, more weeks, more games. And as a result, this year's schedule comes more into play and conflict with America's Rugby Championship. What we'll also see, I think, is the impact of roster diversification. There are going to be guys that are going to get injured throughout the season, and it's going to be important for teams with their rosters and with their subs to successfully fill those voids. I think that's one of the things that has set NOLA apart. If you can't tell that I like NOLA, well, then you haven't been watching. Because let me tell you something, they've really come through with a diverse roster, and I think that's why they are in fact the tops of the table. They have a mix of overseas players, and they have a mix of youth. Both of these things are playing well for them. So if you're trying to, figure out which teams are going to win each week, look at the rosters. See who's going to be in because of the bye week in the America's Rugby Championship, and see who's going to be on display for their national teams. That might give you an indication of which teams have the edge each week. So, if you like today's content, if you enjoyed what I had to say, click like and subscribe. But all in all, keep watching Major League Rugby.